On this Thanksgiving, I have a lot to be thankful for. Great friends, great family who I'm about to share a great meal with. But near the top of that list, I'm thankful that I'm not JD Vance. Because imagine being JD Vance, having no sense of self, no morals, having no one that likes you, and the people who pretend to, they mock you behind your back. And the people who openly don't like you make fun of your big fat face every day. It must be terrible being JD Vance because there's one person who he's really desperate to like him who doesn't. And that is his boss, who is blowing up his biggest dream in the world in a new report that exposes how Trump is turning on his own vice president and mocking him constantly. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you are thankful for our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into how Trump is reportedly hating on JD Vance to his face and behind his back, I want to start with someone who probably likes Vance a little too much, and it's gross, and that's Erica Kirk.
They went to the weirdest places.
Oh my gosh, you guys, please. So for those of you who know me, I hug.
Yes, you're an intense hugger.
Whoever
awesome.
is like hating on a hug needs a hug themselves. I will give you a free hug anytime you want a hug. My love language is touch, if you will, but seriously, that hug. So I will give you a play-by-play. I'm walking, they just played the emotional video. I'm walking over, he's walking over, I'm starting to cry. He says, he's so proud of you. And I say, God bless you. And I touch the back of his head. Anyone who I've hugged that I have touched the back of your head when I hug you, I always say, God bless you. That's just me. If you want to take that out of context, go right ahead. Again, that to me shows that you need a hug more than anyone else. So if anyone...
They were acting like you touched the back of his ass.
Yeah, I'm not buying the story that it was just a little hug and it's platonic and everything's fine. I honestly do believe if JD Vance thought that divorcing Usha and marrying Erica Kirk would get him closer to the White House, he absolutely would in a heartbeat. And this is why, and I know that some people are going to get mad at me about this, I don't really see Erica Kirk as a widow as much as I see her as the CEO of Turning Point USA. And that's why I am constantly critical of her, because she is not someone who says, you know what, I want to take some time out of the public eye, I want to think about my family. No. She got right back into running that racist organization and raising money to promote hosts, largely funded by billionaires who attack black women and harass them for a living. So yeah, I don't feel bad being critical of Erica Kirk and certainly not JD Vance because these are some of the least interesting and charismatic people in the world and they somehow speak for a living. It doesn't really compute to me. Just listen to JD talking about his views on turkey and Thanksgiving and one of the weirder speeches I've ever seen, and it shows why what Trump is saying is going public.
That is a uniquely American thing. That's why, for example, we have turkey. Think about turkey. Who really likes, be honest with yourselves, who really likes turkey? You're all full of shit. Everybody who raised your hands. I know. Think about it. And here's how I know that every single one of you who raised your hand is lying to me. How many times do you roast an 18-pound turkey just randomly? Just, a nice summer afternoon, we're going to go get an 18-pound turkey.
What is he talking about? You don't like turkey? Okay, then have some ham. I don't know. Have some brisket. Do anything else but talk. And honestly, I think the reason that these guys hate turkey so much is because they don't know how to season their food. This is one of the funniest days of the year for MAGA Twitter because everyone is outing themselves as this terrible cook. We remember the Marjorie Taylor Greene picture, but look at what Stephen Miller posted today. Is that not the most disgusting turkey you have ever seen? And the food looks bad as well. But it's of course Stephen Miller can't cook. Of course Stephen Miller doesn't season his food and he's not some incredible chef. But this is a self-report from JD Vance. Also, Like, no one is laughing at you. No one finds you charming. No one finds you interesting. No one thinks you're funny. JD Vance is just such a detestable figure. You don't want to have a beer with him. You don't want to hang out with him. You don't even know who he is. Again, there's no sense of self there. He's not a real guy. He's this inauthentic shell of like, how do I get to the White House? How do I elevate myself? And JD, it is not going to work because the people around you see right through you, including the guy who you are going to have to beg for an endorsement, who you are protecting pedophiles on behalf of right now, hoping you get that endorsement. But even Donald Trump is mocking JD Vance's biggest dream. Author reveals how Trump and Bannon are secretly trolling JD Vance. Author John Carl suggested that Donald Trump and Steve Bannon aren't serious about the president seeking an unconstitutional third term in the White House and are instead pushing the idea to troll the president's potential heir, Vice President JD Vance. For months, Trump has suggested he could try and run for president again in 2028 despite it being illegal. It seemed Trump was simply baiting his critics by implying he might try to remain in power or using it as an excuse to excite his MAGA base during public appearances. However, the president began taking the idea more seriously, telling NBC News in March that he was not joking about exploring how he might stay in office. In October, the 79-year-old president ultimately admitted that the Constitution makes it pretty clear obviously he can't serve a third term. Bannon, a top Trump ally and host of the influential War Room podcast, told The Economist last month that he was working on a plan that could allow Trump to run again in 2028. The issue for Vance, or any other potential 2028 Republican hopeful, such as Secretary of State Marco Rubio, is that they cannot launch a White House bid, while MAGA remains fixated on the idea that Trump will somehow pursue a third term. Speaking on Morning Joe, Carl said Trump will struggle to acknowledge that he must eventually leave office, therefore making him a lame duck president in his final months. At what point does he actually make it clear? No, I'm not running, and it's one of these guys, or it's that guy, and now all the attention shifts, Carl said. I covered the Obama White House. You know what it's like in 2015, 2016 when you're a lame duck? Nobody pays any attention. I don't know how he voluntarily passes the baton, he added. I don't think right now he's serious about staying another term. So Donald Trump is simply talking about 2028, in many ways, of course, because he is desperate for attention because mommy and daddy never gave it to him, but also to troll JD Vance. Isn't like, okay, we'll allow Donald Trump to do one thing, and that's the troll JD Vance. I'll laugh at one thing, okay? That's it, though. But isn't this hysterical that JD is just such a loser that he has completely sold himself out? He's like twisted himself into knots, doing whatever Trump wants, saying, oh, dear leader, you're so fantastic. And the only thing that he desires out of this is the nod for 2028. And Trump's like, I'd rather run again. Trump's like, I'd rather break the law preventing JD Vance from being the Republican nominee in 2028. And it's also funny to consider that if Donald Trump were to get behind Vance, it would kind of cement a little bit more of the power that he is losing within his own coalition, right? MAGA is so clearly fracturing right now, and I do believe largely ahead of 2028 as the party seeks to define what it will be in a post-Trump era, which is why Trump doesn't want them thinking about that. He keeps on bringing up 2028, but if he said, yeah, Vance is my successor, that would be Donald Trump putting his thumb on the scale. It would be Donald Trump continuing to exercise power. Donald Trump saying, hey, even after I'm done being president, I'll still have control over MAGA, and JD Vance will ultimately be subservient to me. But he's not even smart enough to think ahead to that, or maybe it's not that he's not smart enough. Of course, it's going to hurt him so badly inside, but he sees Vance as such a fucking loser, which he is, that he's like, this guy? Really, this guy? It was fine when Peter Thiel was going to give tens of millions of dollars to my campaign, and he was in with all the crypto corruption, and my sons liked him, which I don't really know if Donald Trump cares what Don Jr. has to say, but he's like, it was fine when he was my little vice presidential stooge, but this guy being in power, JD Vance, get out of here. And we know that is all that Vance cares about, is the presidency, is the Republican nomination. And so that Trump is like, not just like dangling it, but full on being like, absolutely not, is so funny. And I talked to Hakeem Jeffries about this, and he pointed out in that meeting when Trump had the Trump 2028 hats, he looked at Vance, he's like, are you cool with this, man? Like, you're just going to let him make you his little bitch? Like, JD Vance, I knew he was into couches. I didn't know he was Trump's cuck as well. Like, all these sexual fantasies JD Vance is having fulfilled in his time in office. Eesh, him and Erica, I guess, is what JD is distracted, isn't he? He's got plenty of other things on his mind. Ugh, I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to think about what's happening with the couch cushions today on JD's special day. But yeah, Trump even sees this guy and he's like, he is a joke. He is a squish. He is a loser. And I find that hysterical because JD Vance is. But Donald Trump is giving him one last opportunity to try to save himself. And that is to go to Tennessee right now for a special election. Afton Bain, an incredible candidate. She is running an incredible insurgent campaign right now in a deep Trump district, in which she's only 2 points behind right now. And she talked to Jen Psaki. JD Vance just visited that district to try to get things going. I feel like if you send JD Vance somewhere, that's going to hurt you. I don't know what the thinking was there, but you need to listen to what she had to say. This is an incredible candidate that we got to get behind.
Just mentioned, I mean, according to a new poll, your race in that very same district is very, very close. So help us understand how you made this thing a toss-up.
Well, this race is competitive because Tennesseans are fed up and we're done being sold out to the highest bidder. And voters across the 7th District want leaders who will fight for their families and not the Billionaire Boys Club, who is backing my opponent, my Republican opponent.
I think the conventional wisdom, I just showed part of it. You have this great ad where there's a mechanical bull, which is an example of this. But the conventional wisdom some Democrats might have, or that some people, an analyst out there might have, is that to win a red district like yours, a Democrat might have to tack to the right, or at least tack to the middle. You have run unapologetically progressive. I mean, I've mentioned a bunch of things, but you've talked a lot about affordability. But why do you think that has worked in narrowing the gap and not sort of the more traditional go tack to the center approach?
Well, as serving in the state legislature, I have organized around ending Tennessee's very regressive grocery tax for 3 years and have built a bipartisan coalition of those who want to lower taxes for working families. And this race, this campaign has been a continuation of that. And so I've just been on the campaign trail talking about cheap groceries, cheap utilities, lowering rent costs, and it's resonating with so many folks across the district. I also got my start as a healthcare organizer, as you mentioned, during the 2017 Affordable Care Act and Medicaid fights. And I have been trying to make healthcare more affordable for Tennesseans my entire organizing tenure. And so that's really played out in the district as well, with Republicans, calling me, emailing me saying, I need you to preserve the subsidies in the Affordable Care Act, and you will be the first Democrat I will ever vote for in my life.
If Democrats are, I don't even just want to say like win. Of course we want to win. We want to win. We want to win. We want to win. We're going to win this race. But to even be as competitive as Democrats are in a district that Donald Trump a year ago won by 22 points, for this to be close, to have to send JD Vance, for Donald Trump to have to done a teletown hall, that's insane. That is the fracture within MAGA, and I am so thankful for that on Thanksgiving. I hope you all have had a great day. I hope you're watching some football. I hope you're having just some incredible food. You're with friends. You're with family. I appreciate you taking some time to hang out with me. That means a lot. We're going to keep fighting on this channel. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. Leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. I'm going to go have some Thanksgiving dinner. But until next time, I'll see you soon.